Hello and welcome to NB Drives. My name is Nishmanya, and today I'm with a very special guest, Mr. Manoj Lulla. He is an entrepreneur, an actor, and a very big automotive enthusiast, car enthusiast. Welcome to the channel. And today we'll be interacting with him in his own living space where you can see some of his amazing collection behind us, car collection. So we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I would like to ask you a little bit about yourself and how you got into the automotive world. Like, what drew you in?
Well, I told you earlier, I got into this at the age of 3. And when your father gives you your first toy, it happened to be a car. And then I just got attracted to the whole concept of cars and it started off from then.
Yeah.
And I still remember when I was in my 5th grade, or 4th grade rather, and there was a Guruji who came home and he said, "What do you want to become?" And people would say, "I want to become a cricketer, I want to become a big businessman, or whatever." I said, "I want to have 50 cars." That's all I asked for.
Yeah.
So it's from then that this passion is there.
Yeah, and that dream seems to have almost turned
Well,
out to become a
well, there's
reality.
no 50, but there's 4 here.
Yeah. All right. So, could you walk us through what the first car you had experience driving with was?
Well, I was 11 years old when I started learning on my Padmini, Fiat Padmini.
Yeah.
And then you had the column gears, and my driver was teaching me that point of time. And it was in the bylanes, not on the main road or anything like
Of
that.
course. Yeah.
And I didn't have the strength to shift the gears.
Yeah.
So I would like ask him to shift the gears, and I would try and handle the wheel. And I had a pillow to get me up front of the wheel so I could
Yeah.
reach to reach.
Yeah.
So I tried them both, the Padmini as well as the Ambi. The Ambi was harder, ambassador, but the Fiat was pretty easy in that sense. But if you ask me, my kids today will not be able to drive any of those. They'd find it like as you're driving a tractor or something.
To be fair, I think most people, at least from the younger age group, would not be able to just get behind the wheel of either a Fiat or an Ambi and just start driving. I'm not even sure if they would be familiar with the column mounted
Stick shift.
shifter because very few people are nowadays. Trends going more towards automatic gearboxes.
Absolutely.
So it's sort of like a dying breed, people who still like manuals and can drive them. Moving on to the first car that you purchased for yourself, what was it?
Well, I had a downfall in my business, so we were almost on the street, uh, literally.
Oh,
So even this house was going to be auctioned. So then we moved away from. My father had the first Audi and this and that. So uh, when I bought my first car, it
yeah,
was a Maruti Zen diesel, and I couldn't afford the petrol because. And then I heard that was the most fuel efficient car.
yeah,
So I wanted something that I could spend less money on,
yeah,
and it was giving some crazy 25 kilometers a liter and all of that. And of course, a heavy car. The engine was heavy for the Zen.
yeah.
That was my first
First
car that
car
I
that you
bought. Yeah, yeah,
purchased.
yeah.
Wow, a Zen,
Yeah.
which again, a lot of people from younger audiences might not know because Zen's no longer on sale here. But it was essentially a nicer 800, you could say.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
In fact, when the Zen came out, it was so much more expensive than the 800.
yeah,
It felt like as you were buying a car with a boot, but it was a hatchback.
yeah,
You know, a
yeah,
couple of lakhs, 3, 4 lakhs for a hatchback, it was like a shock.
yeah,
I mean, like couple of thousand more, you could actually bought the Maruti 1000.
yeah,
So it was like a luxury hatchback at that point of time. When it
yeah.
actually is launched.
Premium hatchbacks
Yeah,
as we know it
premium
today.
hatchback, absolutely. And of course the Fiat Palio. So these two cars at that point of time.
Which version of the Palio did you have?
No, I didn't have the money to buy the expensive one. So
Yeah.
the rock bottom with the black top bumper, which I thought was
Oh,
actually pretty cool
yeah.
because I put some fancy wheels and it made it look like it was a like a crossover.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because of black plastic on
Yeah,
top.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it kind of looked nice, and I felt the car was very solid. I loved the Fiat Palio. When you close the door, it felt like a European car.
Yeah. Very
So
sturdy
very
and
sturdy and very
yeah.
yeah. But my first experience in a supercar was actually in the early 90s,
Okay.
1992, when my parents live in Manhattan, and the neighbor used to borrow my dad's S class. And my mom just went and said, grab the keys and said, my son wants to drive your Ferrari. Like, how can you ask somebody a Ferrari? So, but anyway, that was my first experience driving a supercar. It was almost 32 years ago.
And the Ferrari specifically that you drove, from
It
what?
was a 328 GTS T-top.
328 GTS. Yes, yes.
And it was a left-hand drive across the US and
Yeah.
on a stick shift, so I was struggling. But I summer managed and slow speeds in New York, Manhattan. I took my mom for a nice Chinese lunch.
Yeah.
But those flip lights was gorgeous. I just
God.
missed those old designs
Yeah.
by Pininfarina.
Yeah.
I think they were just stunning.
How old were you when you got the chance to drive the Ferrari?
I was 18.
That would have been quite an insane
Yeah,
experience.
18, 19. And I think at that point in time, probably you could count the number of people, Indians would have driven a Ferrari.
Yeah, it would be a very short list of Indians that have
Yeah,
gotten to.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So moving from there, what was the first either premium car or performance car that you ended up getting?
Then I bought the Skoda VRS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Gateway into performance cars
yeah,
for Indians.
yeah. That was. I just loved the way it shifted and all of that. And then straight away I went and bought the 911 manual in 2005.
A 911. That's
Yeah,
like the epitome of what a sports car is supposed to
yeah,
be.
yeah, yeah. I still can't forget the first drive when I paid the check and I took the keys in my hand and the first gear shift and the sound is still fresh in my memory like as it happened yesterday. And that's almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first Porsche actually was, I didn't buy it from the dealer.
Hmm.
I bought it from another gentleman in Chennai
Okay.
who bought the car, but then he didn't want it. I think it was manual and it was hard.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what he warned me. He said, look, you need really strong legs because the clutch is really hard.
Yeah.
I said, I don't care. For me, manual is everything. And that's how I picked the car up.
All right. Uh, okay, moving on to the supercars that you've got. The first car that got you into supercars out here.
Again, the first car that got me to supercar category was the 911 Turbo because
Oh,
it beat the shit out of all the other cars that were around. Whether it was the Gallardo or the 430,
yeah.
the Turbo was just way ahead. And it was the first 911 Turbo actually in Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
So, I mean, people would say, when you can buy a 911 for so much, why would you buy a Turbo? People didn't have the concept of turbo at that point,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
a 911 Turbo does.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then when we had a track event, it trashed almost every damn brand out of the window. So,
That I think even today now, if you see the turbo's performance compared to the other supercars that are even more expensive than it, the performance to dollar ratio that it offers
it's
is
mind blowing. But again, as you grow over the years, you get mature. Your choices keep changing based on. Then it's not speed anymore, but the kind of feel that you get at lower speeds. Because how
yeah,
often out of your 100%,
yeah,
what are the chances you're going to drive the car at this particular speed at 200 kilometers an hour? Very less, hardly 1%, or I mean less.
yeah, absolutely,
Whereas your 40, 50 will be almost 80%.
yeah,
And then you have your 120, which are whatever.
yeah,
So uh, I started this. I learned from another friend of mine in Mumbai, and he said, Manoj, I think we need to start enjoying our cars at 50 kilometers an hour.
yeah,
Enjoy the start, just the start of the engine, the crank of the engine. Then I realized even cars that don't go that fast, but cars that are connected to, like, you feel it and you feel every nut and bolt.
yeah,
So that's the feel that I got from the Gallardo. It was hardcore, you know, and of course, I wish I bought the 4.5 because that retains a lot more value
yeah,
than the Gallardo. Gallardo is crashed, and that really broke my heart. That's the only car that kind of went down in value among all my other cars.
yeah.
The 911 Magnus holding value, the Turbo's holding value,
Okay,
uh, all these cars, Ferrari's holding the value. Lamborghini is just one brand. Though I'm fond of it. It's not like I don't like it, but
yeah,
for some weird reason, India they don't hold value.
yeah. I think that was down to the market not quite understanding the car also back then. But the Gallardo happens to be one of the cars that it really helped me fall in love with
Yeah,
Lambo as a
yeah.
brand.
No, 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 no.
Apart from that, your journey with Ferrari, you've had a few now.
Yeah. So I started my journey with the 430. Again, I bought that from another friend of mine.
Yeah.
He wasn't using the car.
Yeah.
So I just like, boss, you give me your keys. I'm just walking out of the garden. And I just, I just drove out of the house.
Wow.
His house. And then the car was out here several years.
Yeah.
And this 430 that I picked up was one of the first few 430s that are fully spec.
Okay.
And there are very few 430s in the country. One or two were illegally got, but this was at my friend. Again, I had sourced it for him.
Yeah.
He picked it from a lawyer in Mumbai, and it was full duty paid. Everything was done. And this car had Daytona seats. It had the carbon fiber steering wheel. It had the ceramic brakes, which were option then.
Yeah.
Because post the 4.5, they became standard. So this car was fully spec. It had Scuderia shields. Every damn option was
Yeah.
almost ticked on the car, and it had that Scuderia paint,
Yeah. Yeah.
not the Rosso Corsa.
Yeah.
So it had that little orange tinge, and I had it for many years. But unfortunately, in India, again, bad of Ferrari to not have their computers for the 430.
Yeah.
So that the older dealer lost his dealership, same time I had the Porsche,
Yeah.
and then they had the computers only from 458 onwards. So
Okay.
this
So,
430 is kind of an in-between car. So even if you have a 328 or 308, which are hardly one or two in India,
hmm.
you don't need a computer for that. The hardcore mechanic in those
Yeah.
job can fix the car.
Yeah.
But a 430, unfortunately, even if you're chaining the clutch and all of that, you need the comp. You need to again learn the gears and then
Yeah.
all of that. So then the only option was to get a guy from Dubai to service it all the time.
Yeah.
And then
It's costly affair.
A, it's
Yeah.
costlier. B, what are the chances if after 5 days something goes wrong? You got to get the computer back again.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think a brand like Ferrari needs to understand that and give their dealers the older software for older cars.
Yeah.
On one hand, you want collectors to build their collection. On the other hand, you don't support the dealership with
Yeah.
something like that. I thought it was
Yeah.
bad of the brand.
Yeah, because it becomes really tough, as you said, when you are building a collection. You do tend to like get very emotionally attached to cars,
Obviously,
and if you can't keep them in running order to the way you want them, it becomes harder and harder to hold on to them.
yeah.
So that is something I feel like brands really do need to like if they want the kind of collectors that keep their cars in running shape and don't just treat them as garage queens.
Yep.
They really do need to work on their servicing support for older cars as well.
And besides money, it's also the hassle of getting the guy
Yeah,
all the way back to.
yeah, and the guarantee that you were saying that it might not be working fine in 5 days, 10 days time, and you then do the entire process again only to hope that it's in running order.
So it doesn't
So
make sense.
yeah, uh, and also another thing you pointed out, it came with the Scuderia shields on the fenders. Now a lot of people who are not well versed in Ferraris as cars, those shields do not come as standard despite most owners optioning them on. And something that you really associate with the brand, the prancing horse badge on the side fenders, which is something I find very. It's hard to explain to people who are not into cars because it's so iconically Ferrari, but
Yeah,
it's not a
I mean
standard
it's
option.
kind of it's like I don't think a Mercedes will charge you for their emblem to put on the
Yeah,
grill. So,
yeah,
but Ferrari does that.
yeah. And they're probably the very few brands that can actually get away with
Yeah, doing
asking
that.
you to
Yeah,
pay
yeah,
extra for
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. From there, you went on to get a few other Ferraris. We'll come to this beautiful
Yeah,
car in a second.
yeah. After that, I went in for an SLS. So I just wanted. I knew that the SL is not as good as a Porsche or as good as a Ferrari. It comes to reliability in terms
Yeah,
of doing those things on a track. And
yeah,
it's not often that you go on a track. And I found the SLS has this drama. And today, the most expensive car in the world is a Gull Wing.
yeah, yeah,
I think it was iconic to have a car with the gull-wing doors and again naturally aspirated V8 engine,
yeah.
and it's a great GT car. So you don't
Absolutely.
expect it to do what a mid-engine Ferrari does, but we're cruising, and it's I think one of the most well-designed cars in the last 20 years for sure.
I actually absolutely agree with you in terms of its styling. I think from the day it was launched to today, I don't think the styling has aged at all. Like it looks perfect in its proportions, in its stance. The gullwing doors, as you can see behind, they are just so theatrical. Anywhere you pull up and you see those doors go up,
Yeah,
eyes are going to be on it regardless of how pretty it anyway looks. And also, as you mentioned, the engine under the hood, it's not the current crop of V8s that Mercedes uses. This was the older 6.3 liter V8, and I think it is one of the best sounding engines around. I just
absolutely,
love
absolutely.
it.
And I think it's one of the best looking cars that were made in the last 20 years. American muscle in a German disguise.
Yeah, in a nice German suit.
German suit.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so I mean the small details. For example, the crease that goes over the entire front headlight, and
yeah,
that same crease goes up to the tail lamp.
yeah.
Detail like that. I mean, I think even the new GTS is nowhere close to it in terms of design.
No,
And I
no.
think Mercedes, of course, they have got a lot of things right compared to other brands in today's market.
Yeah,
Much better than Audi, much better than BMW in some many ways in terms of design.
yeah.
But few things like the angry grille, I think the vertical
Pan
grill,
Americana
vertical, yeah, that
grills.
that I I think a proper grill with just that one line that goes
Single slats,
single
yeah,
that which I think is so classy.
yeah,
It is there in the Gullwing, it is there of the 50s, it is there in
yeah,
the SLs of the older
yeah,
cars.
yeah,
The 560 SL have the same damn
yes,
thing and looks
yeah.
so classy.
Very
Why mess up something that's already so
works.
good? And then, of course, the new SL has got this huge screen in the middle, which is I don't know what.
Yeah,
Nobody's going to watch TV when they're going to drive their car. I mean, you
yeah,
need a Google Maps down your phone.
yeah.
Why would you have such a huge screen in the middle of it?
Yeah, and another thing, like from driver's perspective, if you are using maps, I feel like the best execution of it is when it comes onto the instrument cluster, because like it's right in your line of sight. You don't have to like move your head out of the way. So in that sense, you don't need that bigger screen, which is why I think companies sort of like how Bentley is handling its interiors. The fact that it knows that its interiors in a few years will look a little dated with the tech, so it gives you the option of just hiding away and getting the analog
Absolutely.
dials
That's,
and
I think, one
clocks.
of the best acts I've ever seen in terms of interior design by any automobile manufacturer in the last 2 3 years. To have the old analog instruments at the same time have the digital option.
Yeah,
I think manufacturers should give you the option of going back and saying, look, I don't want the screen, I want my analog dials.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's like, why would you wear a digital Rolex or why would you wear a digital.
Absolutely.
Uh,
That is the perfect analogy. Like you would really nobody is gonna spend money on a digital Rolex. So uh I think they should sort of go back. And presumably you feel the same way about the buttons on the interiors.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm used to increasing the volume with the knob. I'm used to changing the exact temperature of the aircon. Who's going to touch and fiddle with the screen and get that
Y-
actual
Yeah.
thing? I mean, there are few things I think that the buttons just have to be left on.
Do better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just leave it. The volume control, the AC controls have to be those knobs.
Yeah.
And it has the old school look, the nice chrome, and that's what adds to the whole character of the car and,
Yeah.
makes it a complete experience.
Yeah, the tactile experience you get out of using good dials and well laid out buttons, it can't be matched
Yeah,
by those capacitive screens or buttons.
yeah,
I completely agree with.
absolutely.
All right, so we were talking about your Merc. From there, you have got Ferrari also right here. It's a lovely pista.
Thank you.
It's a 488 pista in case you guys didn't catch it behind me. Could you walk me through how you got your hands on this?
Well, so after the 430, I wanted to get my hands on. Actually, I wanted the 458 Speciale, but then they were sold out,
Yeah.
and then I think I missed it by probably 2 hours.
Oh,
So I think they cashed the check at 10:30, and I called them at 12:30. They said, "Sir, the car just got
no.
sold 2 hours before," and that was a sad thing. Then the only option left was to get a brand new 488.
Yeah.
So I ordered the 488, and it was the first 488 in the country.
Okay.
So again, something unique.
Yeah.
The car felt like a 911 because you could just drive it anywhere.
Yeah.
Till then, my experience of Ferrari has been like it's a little tougher to use it on a daily basis.
Little cumbersome around.
Yeah, yeah. The 430 was a little bit,
Mm.
uh, But then this car was like I could just drive with one single hand, and
Yeah.
I could use it on a daily basis. So yeah. Then after that, the next thing I wanted was a special edition.
Yeah.
I took part in the one of the Ferrari events, and then I saw there were just 10 cars, all of them red, and I actually searched for my car. So I'm like,
Yeah.
this is like a school uniform, and how? I mean, at the end of the day, no doubt you have a Ferrari, but then you want to have a unique experience, something that nobody
Yeah.
has.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, the next car I do, I got to spec it really well. And then until then, nobody in India at that point in time had really spec their cars beyond. Okay, yes, the reds were of course common. They did their blacks and they did their yellows
Yellows.
maximum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beyond that, nobody had done an
Bespoke
experiment.
colors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bespoke colors. So I went to Ferrari, and then there's like this lady there who spoke to me, of course, like with that Italian accent. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mr. Lula, these are the in the Italian program, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then she showed me this Azzurro Plata, which is what
Yeah.
it's called. And she said, Mr. Lula, if you do this in the matte option, which is they call it a
Yeah.
panko in Italian,
Yeah.
Italian,
Yeah.
she said, you'll be the only one in the world. So that got me. I'm like, if I have a car that's the only one in the
In the world.
world
Yeah.
with that spec, I think that's worth it.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, let's go ahead and do it. And then all the interiors were with that French theme. I mean, it's basically a car to pay tribute to the 1962 250 that won
Short
the
wheelbase.
short
Yeah.
wheelbase that won the Le Mans.
Yeah.
So then we did the matte French flag
Yeah.
on it, and then we did a Napa French flag to the seats.
Yeah.
And the seats itself has a combination of white stitching, blue on the exterior, and red in the center, which also is part of the French flag.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, most of the cars got carbon fiber standard. Then I did the carbon fiber between the tail lamps.
Yeah.
And then intentionally, I didn't want to do any colored calipers
Hmm.
because I felt that would take away the beauty of the actual paint.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be understated at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think the car turned out to be, with no offense, one of the best cars Ferraris in the world, and I think the best Ferrari looking Ferrari in India for sure. What do you
I,
think?
I, I, I agree with you. The spec is phenomenal, and I've seen it in pictures many, many times before. Because it is, as you said, it's one of the most famous ones in India for sure, and internationally also it's been picked up for its spec. But seeing it in person, the everything that you've picked in terms of the exterior elements, the wheel colors, the calipers, which I think is a very smart decision that you didn't go with a loud caliper color, because I feel like it might have sort of detracted from the overall aesthetic of the car.
Mm,
It just seems to be put together so well, and I really, really like it. And also, hats off to you for not going for a red Ferrari, because it's a safe route to go
same
down
thing.
with
Yeah, yeah,
Ferraris, because people think of resale because it's a big amount of monie you're putting into a car.
yeah.
So you do have to keep that in mind at some level, but at the end of the day, it has to be a special occasion for you, and I don't think it gets anything gets more special than this.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely. So glad. So
uh,
glad you liked it.
absolutely. Also, there are two G wagons behind us. Can we talk a little bit about how come you've got two of them?
So I think you know this is one vehicle that actually scares the shit out of people on the road.
Yeah,
And nobody cares whether they're driving a Ferrari or Lamborghini. And then they know when you're driving them, you're scared. So
yeah,
they'll be in your face, in front
yeah,
of you. But when you drive a G-Wagon, some of them don't know what it is. They think it's a Tata Sumo. One of
yeah,
those
yeah,
goons driving them.
yeah,
So then it clears the way for you automatically. You don't have to do anything.
yeah,
And it's a supercar feel, but on still. So you're actually,
it's,
you're driving a
yeah,
V8,
yeah,
and you can hear the grunt. You're getting that feel of the car, and as I told you, you got to
yeah,
enjoy the car at slower speeds
yeah,
also.
yeah,
So at 40 or 50, that car feels really nice. I
yeah,
mean, the SUV feels really nice,
yeah,
and the growl of the engine just when you just press the
yeah,
start button. So I think, and of course, when you bang the doors, that's the highlight of the
yeah,
vehicle, right?
yeah,
Uh, I remember the 124s that came out,
yeah,
and then that car. I still remember it was 1986 when my dad's colleague in Germany took us for a drive. Of
Yeah.
course, that car came to India in 1994,
Yeah.
95.
Yeah. Came
But
late.
I've experienced the car when I was 13 years old. And I still remember that darkish green paint that he had. So I said, when I spec this car, I mean, this is actually my fourth G. So
Fourth.
yeah, so I had a blue G wagon,
Yeah.
and then I flipped that, and I bought another white one because
Okay.
that was the only one that's available.
Yeah.
And there was this new rule coming with the warning signs where out of 80 there'll be a warning and 120 there's a warning.
Yeah.
I
The
said,
beeps.
that's going
Yeah.
to be in for the imports, and I'm like that will kill the damn vehicle.
Yeah.
So they said there's one vehicle without the warning sign. If you want to take it, you can take it.
Yeah.
So I was forced to buy the white.
Yeah.
But then I got fed up with the white and I tried the experiment of using the GTR's Green Hill Magno paint,
Yeah.
and I got that done.
Yeah.
And actually, it's after that that Mercedes used the Green Hill Magno for some of their G wagons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even before Mercedes experimented the G,
Yeah.
I tried it on the G.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, and it became, I called it the Hulk, and there was a big following for that vehicle all over the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when I told her, like, why did you sell the Hulk, sir? Why did you do that? And I wanted to go for the next car.
Yeah.
So then I got that for my 50th birthday. This was fully spec.
Yeah.
So I wanted the same similar green that I saw the E-Class in 1986. And you see, I've done a very retro thing to the whole car again.
Yeah.
The interior is the dark blue. Most of the E-Classes that came in the
Yes.
70s and 80s had the dark blue
They
seat.
did. They did. Yeah.
So I did the dark blue with the metallic green. It's called the olive green.
Yeah.
And the car's pretty reasonably spec pretty well.
I think it's a very classy spec. From there onto your G350D, that has quite the opposite spec, I would
Yeah,
say.
that's the extremely opposite. I think that matte black gives it that gangster feel.
Absolutely.
And actually, it's pretty amazed because I was like, okay, diesel compared to V8, you don't need. But then the torque in the diesel is so good,
Yeah.
and the fact that you can fuel the damn car anywhere.
Anyway.
So actually, it's more practical than the V8 because you can take it to hill stations
Yeah.
where you don't. I use only the 97 octane on my
Yeah. Yeah.
the V8. So the regular fuel diesel is available,
Everywhere.
and because of low profile tires, the ride quality is much better. You're
Yeah.
traveling with your family,
Yeah.
it feels a lot safer,
Yeah.
and a lot more usable. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
And then I didn't like the interiors of the car because I mean of the SUV because it was used by the media and all of that.
Yeah.
And so then I said, let me do a kind of a Hermes orange,
Yeah.
which Brabus does.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got this done in Chennai,
Okay.
and it took about a month and a half because I had to remove the screens and everything. I'm not sure.
Everything, the
Yeah,
entire interior comes
yeah.
apart for it.
And Mercedes Chennai, they have been supporting me for many years,
Yeah.
sending me for events, and of course to Mercedes also.
Yeah.
So Sundaram has played a big role in kind of fueling my passion.
Yeah.
It is, so we're going to dismantle this thing for you
Yeah.
so that the leather guy can do that because I didn't want the leather people to touch the electronics and
Yeah.
all of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I had Mercedes do that for me,
Yeah.
and then I had an exterior guy come and do the leather work. So it turned out to be crazy.
Yeah, it looks wild in person because the exterior, as you said, the matte black is very gangster, slightly. It's not in your face, but it has so much presence.
Yeah,
While the interior orange pops so much, I think, because of it being black outside, matte black.
yeah,
So the contrast is so high, and it's a very eye-catching spec, which is why it's like almost opposite of the other one.
opposite.
All right. So, few more questions. If Are you looking to add any cars in the near future to your
Yeah, I would love to add a
collection?
Porsche back actually. For some reason, I'm missing a Porsche,
Okay.
and an actually aspirated Porsche is what I would want to have. And I think with the current road conditions now in Chennai is going bad to worse.
Mm.
I would prefer a track car, though I don't go to track too often. I want to
Yeah.
increase the visits because there's no option of driving the roads
Yeah.
until the roads improve maybe
Yeah.
another 3 years. So that's what I'd love to have a 3RS. Hopefully,
Three
allot me
RS.
one.
Yeah.
But right now, they want the people with a lot more money to
Yeah.
buy these cars because they want to spec them to almost 5 crores.
Yeah.
And a 911 starts off at 1.6 crores. So,
Yeah.
whereas a 3RS is 3.5. Um,
GT4s, maybe?
no, I'm not a big fan of the Caymans.
No,
No,
not the games.
I love that iconic 911 look.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the Porsche stable that will excite me like a 911.
Okay. And next question would be, money no object, availability no object,
Wow.
what would be a car that you would love to own? Like your dream car,
Well, talking of older cars or new cars?
old, we can do one old, one new.
Okay.
New as in the last 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
Old as can go as old as you want.
So I love the Pagani, and the Pagani Vera is
Why not?
one of my favorite cars, and I think the car has got so much character.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure it might not be as precise or as fast or as accurate or as nimble as a Ferrari
yeah,
hypercar,
yeah.
but I think Pagani's got a lot more character.
Yeah, I
Um,
think just with the way they've built their cars, even the
yeah,
interiors, you can see the effort that's gone into getting each of those units
and
ready.
that's like a piece of art that you
Yeah,
just
on wheels,
on
essentially.
on. And I was fortunate that I got a sketch signed by Horacio for me. I visited the Pagani factory
Wow.
twice,
Yeah,
and he presented a sketch of the Ora to me.
yeah,
So, and I went to the factory, saw the assembly of the car,
yeah,
and where the carbon fiber mirrors that look like a leaf, like a rose
yeah,
flower.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They look gorgeous.
so yeah, that was a great experience. But a distant, not I would say distant, saying a very close second is actually the Ferrari SP3.
SP3, yeah,
I think it's a very retro looking car
yeah,
and much better than you know any of the Ferraris that have come out in the last 2 3 years or
yeah.
last 10 years rather.
Unfortunately, such limited numbers and ridiculously high pricing,
Yeah,
but
I've been to Ferrari factory about 8 times,
yeah,
and four were just for the pista.
okay,
So when I recently went, I saw the assembly of the SP3,
okay.
and my God, it just blew my mind. So,
That must have been an experience and
yeah,
a half
yeah.
right there. And using older cars, if
Older cars, the I get two favorites. Again, two. One is the 250
yeah,
Ferrari.
yeah,
I think that's
GTO, would you get it in the GTO form or would you get it in the short wheelbase form?
a GTO.
GTO.
Yeah, I think it's got more character. Short
Okay.
wheelbase might be, but that's why I have the amalgam.
Model.
That
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I love that. And then of course, yes, the older SLS Gullwing.
Okay. Yeah, the
I would,
300
yeah, yeah,
XL.
I would love that. I would just love that.
Amazing. Do you have any message you could give out to younger people getting into the field of automotive, like the passion for it? Because it seems like there are fewer and fewer people per generation that are as enamored by cars. So the ones that are there any words you'd like to share for them?
Yeah, I mean, have the passion for cars. I think it's a very positive hobby. As far as you're not comparing yourself with anybody else and you just love what you're doing, I think it's a
Yeah,
great thing to do.
yeah,
And try and get into older cars because that'll keep you back to the old history of cars.
yeah,
Don't get enamored by the new screens and all the digital. I mean, it'll feel like as you're driving a Nintendo.
yeah,
So get back to older cars, yeah, so that the feel and the enthusiasm stays for a longer time.
yeah.
That's it.
All right. Thank you so much for all the time you've
My
taken out
pleasure.
for
My
this.
pleasure.
It's
My
been
pleasure.
wonderful interacting with you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank
Thank you.
you.